Hey everyone, Warts here. So we're back with another class review of 11.2's early PTR patch notes. Today we're going to be doing Warrior. Yes, this might be surprising to you because I play obviously a lot of Monk. I've been maining Evoker. You would expect those classes. I've actually already done Monk. You go that way, look for it. But I've been playing a lot of Warrior lately, and it is actually high on the list for a class that I'm considering maining for next season. I've come to realize that as much as I like playing ranged in keys, I actually don't really enjoy ranged in raid. I love playing melee in raid. And so I'm looking as I get this low battery notice on these headphones. Hang on. Sorry, I'm listening to the music that you're hearing as well to keep my own sanity. Anyways, I want to get back into playing melee, and from the standpoint of potentially DK as well, but I really need to play DK on the PTR to really potentially get excited about. But Warrior is a class that I've mained before. I didn't hate it. I think the tier set bonuses in Aberrus were kind of toxic for Warrior that season. And now that I've learned to play Protection, like, I find myself feeling a lot more flexible on the class, which makes me happy. And I've been playing a lot of arms lately just as a way to gear it up, but dabbling into Prot a little bit again. And really enjoyed it. So I want to take the day and go over the patch notes that they got, because let's just say Protection Warriors are not happy right now. And I want to dig into this as why. Now, I'm coming at this not as a long-time player. Obviously, I'm a little bit of an outsider. But having mained the class before and kept up with the ideas of what's going on with the class, I very much feel like I know just enough to give an opinion that won't be completely disregarded, but also have the opportunity here to be able to learn quite a bit from those of you that are experienced Warrior players. And anytime I get the opportunity to learn, I want to jump at it. All right, so let's talk about these notes. First off, the global cooldown of Hamstring is now 0.75 seconds versus 1.5 seconds. That's mostly a PvP thing. I'm sure folks like Blizzo, who's probably the greatest PvP warrior of all time, is going to be happy about that. Berserker Rage removing Scattershot was a bug, so they fixed that. Cool. And then it updated the tooltip to try and fix what that looks like. So just some small class changes that are not big for PvE, but are important for PvP, which I don't talk about PvP too much. Have exactly 0 qualifications. In fact, I probably have even negative qualifications to talk about PvP on any level. I do enjoy watching AWC when it's on, but I do it mostly because the casters are amazing. And so I've jumped into like a few random battlegrounds every now and then with friends, but other than that, I know nothing. So I'm a PvE guy. Sorry. All right, so let's start with Protection Warrior, and this is the only spec that's getting changes, which is weird because I think Arms and Fury probably need some tweaks on the edges, but I'm still going to talk about them because, as you can see across the top of the thing, we're going to talk about tier set models, but we're going to be focusing a lot on Prot Warrior. All right. So many of Protection Warrior's talents in each gate provide either key capabilities or powerful bonuses that make those talents locked in. As a result, Protection Warrior builds don't change much in different situations or based on personal preferences. In Ghost of Caress, we tried to ensure that you have some points left after taking the must-take talents in each gate. We did this by rearranging the tree to remove some bottleneck talents, making Challenging Shout baseline, good, and reducing the power of some current must-take talents so that they're a comparable power level with optional utility talents. Don't like that. Where talents lost power in this way, we gave it back in other talents or abilities so your overall power level remains similar. They say this, it's rare that that's true. Once we freed up some flexibility to choose more talents based off situation and personal preference, we added some options to let you lean into different aspects of your kit or customize your defenses. Alright, so new talent. Armor specialization is just a flat 6% increase to your armor. What? You have a shield. Like, your armor's fine. I don't think this is... Whatever. Heavy-handed. Execute hits up to 2 additional targets nearby for 70% of damage. Hello, Mythic Plus. Although Execute in Mythic Plus is always, like, tricky because you want to always have your Rage for Ignore Pain and Shield block. So trying to fit an Execute in there is going to be very interesting. I don't think this actually sees play. It depends entirely on how the raid is set up, but I don't see this talent seeing play in raid if raid is a lot more single target focused stuff. New talent, Whirling Blade. Your attacks have a chance to target a nearby enemy with Ravager for 4 seconds. This is a choice node with Ravager. I'd rather just play Ravager, frankly. That's weird. Hunker Down. Damage you take from an area of effect attacks is decreased by 2%. Spell Reflection reduces magic damage taken by an additional 10%. Okay. We get some free avoidance, and you get, I think, Spell Reflection's 20% DR. It's now 30% DR. We take that. If you can't, like, people think you only use Spell Reflect on things that you can actually reflect. Like, a lot of people forget that it's also just a straight up damage reduction on magic abilities. So getting that a little bit more for Prot Warriors, I think, is a good thing. Spellbreaker. You have a 4% chance to disrupt magic damage dealt to you, negating up to 100% of it. 4% seems really low, but that could be really, really interesting. We'll have to see kind of like the proc on that. Unyielding Stance, additional damage reduction by 4% during defensive stance. I think right now you're getting 10%, so it moves it up to 14, which is a weird number, but whatever. And then you get right hand, red right hand, which is your execute damage is increased by 15%. I think that could be playful in raid situations, because when you're not actively tanking, you got to dump your rage somehow in the execute phase, so you might as well use it on execute, so why not? Barbaric Training has been updated. Increases damage of Revenge by 20 instead of 25, but now also increases the damage of Thunderclap by 10%. So 2 of your main damage abilities here on top of Shield Slam, but your AoE damage abilities and Revenge and Thunderclap now getting adjustments. Revenge is getting reduced a little bit, but now also getting Thunderclap added in makes Thunderclap, already one of the most important warrior abilities, even better. Best Served Cold has been updated. Your dodges and parries make your revenge cost no rage 20% more frequently, and increase the damage of your free revenges deal by 15%. And revenge deal increases the damage of your next Thunderclap by 8%, and they moved it down to row 4. I don't know how good Best Served Cold has ever really been. I don't know if we're taking it. Let's look. I don't know in Mythic Plus if Best Served Cold is taking a lot as it is. Prot Warrior. Best Served Cold. Yeah, so here just make it so that it costs no rage. And they moved it down a row. So it's, I mean, it's used quite a bit in the most used build. So, okay. Maybe this makes it better. We'll have to see. But it does give more of a Revenge Thunderclap interplay, which I actually think is okay. I don't mind that. Brutal Vitality, 8% of the damage you deal adds to your active Ignore Pain, or the next Ignore Pain you activate. Your next Ignore Pain can be increased by up to 50% of your total health. Brutal Vitality, I believe, is already used quite a bit in this tree. Somewhere in here. Is it? I'm trying to find it. Anyways, Brutal, that's, I mean, that sounds like a good talent to me. Anytime you're able to... Oh, yeah, it's not in here. But, like, anything that you can do to make your Ignore Pain a little bit better, I think is probably not a bad thing. Tough as Nails. Nails deals damage every time you block an attack, but no longer ignores armor. Its string is updated to reflect that it deals double damage on critical blocks. Damage increased by 100% and moved way down. So, developer note on this, Tough as Nails used to have a half-second delay between when it could deal damage. This delay has been removed, so it deals damage every time you block an attack. It always dealt double damage on critical blocks. That behavior has been added to the description. The intent is for it to do moderate damage against many AoE attackers to help hold threat against them. Yeah, so right now, where is it at? It's over here somewhere. Yeah, Tough as Nails was in the row of spell block. It never actually sees a lot of play because spell block is so damn powerful. But with spell block being removed, this probably becomes the choice now. And the fact that it does like more, I think it's a, like, Tough as Nails has always been good. It's just spell block is broken. That's the thing, in my opinion. Focus Vigor has been updated. So it increases strength by 3% instead of 5. Critical strike chance by 1%, which is unchanged. It no longer increases armor. So they kind of nerf this talent a little bit. Focus Vigor right here. Um, so a little bit of a nerf for a talent that right now is the only way to get down into shield charge, which that's going to feel bad unless there's other pathing that's been opened up. Enduring Alacrity increases stamina by 5% instead of 8%, no longer increases armor. I wonder if it's because of this talent here. Probably. Enduring Alacrity right here. Again, warriors take it because anytime you can have more health, it's always good, and the haste is good for them too. That's really why you took it. Armor didn't matter, so the fact that the stamina is getting reduced a little bit instead of 8% being 5% probably just smooths it out. It's fine. Challenging Shout now baseline. You learn it at level 16 versus being a talent, which is good. Sidearm got nerfed. Sidearm is a talent over here. Yeah, I mean, in Mythic Plus, you take Barbaric Training, but basically they want to make out so that even at the value of Barbaric Training for Colossus and Mountain Thing somewhat, make Sidearm a competitive, simple option against a small number of targets. So this is something that you're probably going to grab something like Barbaric Training in Mythic Plus, and you grab Sidearm in single target. Probably okay. Reinforced Plates increases armor by 8% per point versus 5. So again, Reinforced Plates. I thought it was over here. Oh, that's armor to the teeth that I was thinking about. Whatever. So buff to this, obviously, they're really leaning into the value of armor, but tweaking where you're going to get it from. We'll see. Fight Through the Flames causes a defensive stance to reduce magic damage taken by 4% versus 6%, so a little bit of a nerf to that talent. Fueled by Violence heals for up to 200% of the damage dealt by deep wounds versus 110%. Fueled by Violence is one that's kind of weird. Because we weren't taking it a ton, if I recall. Trying to find it. Or is it over here? I don't know. I'll have to look up the class. I'm not worried about it. But anytime you can get, I mean, that's a big buff to trickle healing. I mean, deep wounds is always on your target the moment you thunderclap. So it's a lot of little trickle healing, which could be a good thing. We'll have to see how it works. Bloodborne increases the damage of your deep wound and rend bleeds by 25%. So it got a buff flat and no longer affects thunderous roars. Now a choice node with sudden death. So sudden death was choice node here. So they're basically taking Show of Force, moving it somewhere else in the tree, and now making Fueled by Violence the choice node there. Bloodborne. Bloodborne right now. I don't remember where it's at. Anyways. I actually like this talent. I think, obviously, if you're playing here, you're getting deep wounds damage, which means your Fueled by Violence heals for more. Good. Punishes increases your shield slam damage, so a small DPS increase on your main ability that you use all the damn time. Never a bad thing. Shield charge now grants shield block, which is weird. It should have. Oh, it just stunned. You actually had to take this in order to do that, which means Champion's Bulwark is probably gone. That's good. I actually like that. Enduring Defense is increased to 2 points, and each point increases shield block duration by 1 second. That feels a little weird. Because right now it's a choice node, but you have to spend 2 points on it, which means it's probably getting yanked out of this choice node. I don't like that. I think they should just keep it at 1 point and make it 2 seconds flat. Like, let's be real. Anytime you have to bloat the talent tree point model, it's never a good thing, frankly. Shield Association was reduced to 1 point, increases block chance by 8%. You were taking that all the time anyways. Disrupting Shout moved to row 4. That's Demo Shout. Whatever. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to close this because I can't find it. Bolster and Unnerving Focus moved to a choice node on row 6. Massacre was moved to row 9, so it's close to a capstone talent now. Defenders, Aegis, and Impenetrable Wall choice node was moved down. Dance of Death, Storm of Steel choice node removed, and they moved Battering Ram, Champion's Bulwark, Juggernaut, Show of Force, and Spell Block. And obviously that was the one that they kind of knew was going to be very controversial. So Spell Block required a lot of specialized knowledge to use. Not only did you need to know when damage was coming, but also whether it was a form of magic damage that could be blocked or not, and that's affected by the ability. AoE damage is unblockable, neither is periodic damage, and some tank busters are and others aren't. We weren't happy with the knowledge demanded to use this ability effectively. Yeah, but the warrior community also did all your work for you and listed a bunch of stuff that you could spell block. And you just had to go find the external resource. Now, based on the fact that they don't like the fact that you have to go through a ton of third-party resources for add-ons to make your gameplay effective, I think this kind of fits in line with that philosophy, where they don't like the fact that you have to go to these third-party resources to figure out how to use the ability. So it getting removed fits within that philosophy. I don't know if I agree with it. Now, there was an article here posted by Nomerter on the loss of spell block. Basically, here's why it's a big deal. It allowed them to deal with magic damage, block spells, 30 seconds at a time, with taking as many hard-hitting magic abilities. It's true that protection warriors do require a lot of knowledge of how and when to use spell block, but the solution was not removing the spell. It's a multi-layered issue. Counterclasses Zion, especially in the case of Prot Warrior, do not coincide. Particularly if you require knowledge to not go away, but with just removing spell block, the exact same issue is the same or even worse capacity still persists with spell reflection and block itself. It's been a consistent issue for multiple expansions. Experienced players can quickly engage something that works with spell block spell reflection, but its blizzard knowledge probably is entirely unique to Prot Warrior and immediately creates a barrier of entry. Dragonflight alone, some of the most devastating tank mechanics required to have spell block, otherwise you would end up being a major liability, outright unable to tank the boxes prolonged periods of times, and let your Paladin Blood Death Knight instead be a real tank to deal with dots or magic damage better than we would. Yeah, that was true. The tier that highlighted it was the best. It would jump and down swings for Prot Warrior, particularly for the four particular block mechanics. On Rashok, you could spell block the magic tank buster enough all the time, which is good. And then Sarkareth, you were able to spell block the dots on there, but Neldris, the magic dot, was not blockable. It was ridiculously hard, and Ziskarn, same thing. Mythic Plus, Motherload, 2 of the 4 bosses deal exclusively magic damage auto attacks. That would be, I believe, Rixa and Azarok, I think, both do. They also said that, hey, look, based off the dungeon journal, 6 of the next are pure magic damage. Basically, they were like, hey, you shouldn't remove this and instead fix your other design issues. I think that's oversimplifying it a lot. I think that there's room for things like, honestly, what they should have done is removed Spell Reflect and made Spell Block your DR. Like, just make not reflecting things. Because, like, there are so many screenshots out there of Spell Reflect doing, like, 28 million damage on a single use because it happened to reflect the one, like, heavy tank buster Void Bolt. And I think you could have done that where you remove Spell Reflect and then you use Spell Block as your quote-unquote magic DR ability. And I think that probably goes over better. Now, again, I'm kind of an outsider. I don't play it at ridiculously high content or anything like that. But, yeah, definitely has caused a thing. Let's see. So they did go ahead and... Oh, they just put the note here. I thought this was... Okay, so let's look at the tier sets for Warriors. So Arms of Fury Warriors is your time to shine. So we're going to go do this based off of hero talent builds, because the Season 3 tier sets are actually based entirely around your hero talents. And you basically get a choice of one on... Based on what hero talent you're getting, is going to be like, hey, here's the class set that you get. So let's start with Colossus, which is for Prot Warrior and Arms Warrior. So the 2-piece, flat to both, it's a damage increase, and critical strike damage area ability is increased by 20% on targets affected by your demolished, based on the number of stacks consumed. So if you consume, it's going to be, it sounds like it's 2% per stack because it's up to 10 stacks. So you can get up to 20%, and normally you're not using demolish until you have 10 stacks anyway. So that's literally not going to change any behavior patterns. All right, let's look for arms. Demolish increases the critical strike chance of your next 2 mortal strikes by 100%. And then mortal strike critical strikes increase your rend and deep wounds damage by 100% for 8 seconds. So this is going to be very powerful single target, actually, because unless you're sweeping strikes, mortal strikes, you're only hitting 1 target with that. So basically, you're guaranteed to crit your next 2 mortal strikes, and then you're going to get a rend and deep wound damage increase by 100% for 8 seconds. The question that I have on that 8 seconds is that because you can hit mortal strike back to back sometimes with resets, trying to stack up your demolish in a Colossus build, does that have like a pandemic window to where if like I get 8 seconds and then I get down and hit it with 3 seconds left, does it go out to like 11 seconds? That's the question that I have. So for arms warriors, looking at that, like I think that's fine. Demolish is very powerful in AoE situations right now, so to give it a little bit of single target oomph, probably not a bad thing. We'll just do this by spec. We'll go ahead and look at the Slayer classlet for arms. Execute damage is increased by 20%, and executes with sudden death have a 10% chance per stack of overwhelmed on the target to trigger Slayer strike at 100% effectiveness. So again, single target buff here with some cleave through sweeping strikes. And then for arms, overpower damage is increased by 20%, and overpower has a 2% per chance per stack of overwhelmed on the target to trigger Reap the Storm at 100% effectiveness. Okay, so a little bit of AoE on that with Reap the Storm. Yes, I think so. Let's look at arms. Warrior. Arms, and let's look at Slayer. So Reap the Storm. Yeah, Reap the Storm here. Basically, when you mortal strike a cleave and it hits 3 or more targets, have a 20% chance to cause you to unleash a flurry of steel, striking all nearby enemies for damage and applying overwhelmed, and it deals reduced damage. So Slayer, very traditionally more of a single target setup here. Now you're getting some AoE off of it when you're basically able to guarantee Reap the Storm being procced off of things like overpower, which is a good thing. So for arms warriors, lots of single target damage increases, not a lot that's going to help necessarily a ton in AoE. I still think you're going to play Colossus in Mythic Plus, probably still play Slayer and Raid. So not a lot of changes for arms warriors, even though I've enjoyed the spec immensely. It doesn't really change your hero talent choice. It just means you get to lean into the strengths of what each one does more. All right, let's look at Fury. Their Colossus, obviously they get the same 2-piece, the 4-piece for Fury. Oh wait, no, they don't have Colossus. They have Slayer. Let's go back to Slayer real quick. So same 2-piece, but then the 4-piece is that Raging Blow does the same thing instead of Overpower. So again, Fury, they don't play Slayer in AoE. They play Mountain Thane right now. But I do think that this is going to be nice for them if you like playing Slayer, or you're playing a bot like you want to be more of like the single target focus damage. This at least allows you to contribute a little bit more on AoE. All right, let's look at Mountain Thane for Fury Warrior. So Thunder Blast is a 35% chance to call down 5 ionizing strikes on affected targets. Each of them deal nature damage. And for Fury, actually, it's the same. Ionizing strikes deal more damage and have a chance to grant Thunder Blast, which is basically your empowered Thunderclap. So Fury Warrior's been playing Mountain Thane in Mythic Plus since they buffed it going into Season 2. This is going to continue to be the case, I think. Although Fury Warrior playing Mountain Thane is still very weird to me. I think that still should have been arms. Go from there. For Prot Warrior, this is excellent. Mountain Thane probably can go back into being... I mean, it's a good Mythic Plus choice now, although Colossus is starting to see a lot of play in the higher levels. But I think Mountain Thane has a much more straightforward gameplay style, and this just makes what it leans into well even better. And then for Prot Warrior, it instead of doing mortal strikes, it does shield slams. So again, same idea. Again, single target for a spec that usually does a lot of AoE damage, but probably sinks in Colossus as by far and away the default choice for Raid. These set bonuses I think are all fine, which honestly for set bonuses is probably about the best you can ask for. Because if it becomes too much power of your class, then you're defined by it. And you feel bad when you don't have it anymore. And if it's too weak, you don't even want to take it. I think this is fine. I think you're going to want to go chase these 4-piece bonuses. And depending on what gameplay style you loop, that is the one thing that Warrior does well, is it has some pretty nice gameplay differences between, say, like Colossus and Mountain Thane for Prot Warrior, Slayer and Colossus for Arms, Mountain Thane and Slayer for Fury. Like, there's some good gameplay differences in all of that. I like that about the spec, about the class. And this just takes, like, hey, here's what these specs do well in these hero talent trees. We're just going to make them even better. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think you're necessarily looking at anything and going, oh my god, this should be part of our base talent class. But I'm also not sitting here looking at this going, yeah, we want to avoid this. Obviously, tuning aside. So what does your tier set look like? So I talked about this a little bit on the monk video, but there's one thing. What the fuck? Sorry. But there's one thing that is always happens with when it comes to class tier sets, is that every class has a very specific marker that identifies it. So Warrior, it's spikes. Warlock, it's horns. As we go up to Shaman here, it's a wolf of some kind, because Thrall. We look at Rogue, it's these shrouded hoods. You look at Mage, it's a gown of some kind, with arcane orbs coming off of it. What is it? Oh, Paladin. Paladin, it's always some sort of glowing thing, and like a helmet that gives off Crusader vibes. Monk is actually very different. They usually have some sort of gi look right here in the waist belt. They always have that samurai look to them. This here is the mage set. Again, you're looking at orbs, a wizard hat, and a gown. This is the hunter set, which is, I mean, they look like trash. That's the marker of hunter sets. Evoker, oh look, you can only see nothing. Evoker's still trying to figure it out, but you're seeing a lot of helms that have a dragon-like shape to them and orbs that go in there. As you can see here, different orbs depending on this, although there. Druid always has some sort of animal involved. Here it's a hawk, or this actually might be hunter. No, this is druid. Always have a hunter and always has some feathers in it somewhere. You look at Demon Hunter, they always have the Illidan horns somewhere in there. And then Death Knight always has some sort of relation to things like the Jailer or Bolvar or Arthas as the Lich King, usually found in the helm. And you're getting like the, instead of spikes, they usually have jagged edges on their tier sets. Like, tell me if I'm wrong, but go back and look at all of tier sets and tell me that if you didn't find those markers on tier sets going back to probably Warlords, they're there. I'm sorry. They're just, they do this. So for Warriors, it is again spikes. I'm assuming this is the LFR set here. It won't pull up for me. Whatever. I don't know what's going on with this helmet. That is bizarre. That said, I do like the purple set. This is cool. The green one reminds me a lot of the 20th anniversary armor set / tier 2 set. And then I'm assuming this is the mythic one with the blue on it. I'm probably going to go chase this one and use it because I really like this purple set and it matches the theme of Ghost of Koresh. This helm thing blows my brain. I'm not sure exactly what to make of it. But other than that, it's stereotypical. Spikes on the shoulders, spikes on the legs, and a couple spikes on your knees. It's standard stuff for warrior armor. The coloring does a lot for this set. I'm going to give it probably a 7. Not as good as the monk in my opinion. I would even argue giving it a 6, mainly because the mythic set one to me is ugly as shit. PvP one, red and black always works. This orange and like gold type look I don't like, but yeah, this bangs. And this bangs. Other than the helm being weird, I don't know what to make of it. But I hide helms most of the time anyways. Except on my Magar Orc. He's ugly as shit, so you know he gets his face covered. So I'll give this like colors carry this set a lot in my opinion, so that's why it can't be any higher than a 7. I could even argue giving it a 6 because even then, outside of this purple one and the red one, the color schemes are kind of meh. So, anyways, that's everything that I'm looking at for Warrior so far that we've gotten in patch 11.2's PTR notes. Hopefully DPS Warriors get a little love. I think there's some rough edges that need to be polished up and cleaned up. So hopefully you guys get some notes soon, and maybe I join you in saying, when we say you guys, I can say we, because I might be maining this class. I really like the DPS specs. Arms in particular really stands out to me, and I don't hate Prot Warrior. So I still love tanking, and I still want to tank. That's going to be a big factor in the class that I play, unless there's just like a ranged need. So until the next video, I hope you all stay safe, hope you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, you keep on gaming. We'll see you next time.